special education teacher at Washington High School, and we're here because, quite honestly, the cuts that the SFUSD staff are proposing are absolutely ridiculous. There are so many cuts to necessary services for students, to wellness services, to special education services. They want to cut JROTC. They want to cut so much from our students, and our schools are already underfunded as it is. We cannot afford this, and I don't care what they say about their plan, it's not sustainable. They need to find a better place to take these cuts, because otherwise we're going to have a worse shortage of educators than we already have.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Curiel. I'm the president of United Educators of San Francisco. Today we have a rally involving all the schools, unions across SFUSD to advocate for no cuts to schools. The budget deficit of $125 million is projected. Right now the board is supposed to vote tonight to make a balancing plan on those budget cuts to come from school sites, 10% from school sites, and then an additional $50 million from other direct services. And tonight we're here to say, not from our kids, not from our schools.
And how would these cuts affect services for the students and in the schools?
Absolutely. So some of these cuts are going to come as reductions in people. So school sites are going to lose the number of people who work currently with students. That includes, and this is specific in their plan, literacy coaches, peer resources, multilingual pathways. They are investigating millions of cuts from the SPED department. These are all services that work directly with students, and that's not the only ones that they're looking to cut from school sites.
And in the middle of a pandemic, with the conditions, mental health, everything else, how is this going to affect the student body and what's going on?
You bring up a great point, the point of the pandemic, and we've got mental health, we've got social emotional, and we need extra academic support at a time like this. Schools need as many adults on campus to help work with students as possible. The cuts that they're proposing will reduce the number of people at school sites and reduce the number of services that students get from the district.
And they're arguing that they have to do it because there's going to be a trusteeship. Why don't you talk about that whole threat, what it means?
So the state takeover is a threat that's looming right now. They have had a year and definitely a directive from the board since May to make cuts to the central office administration staff. They say that these cuts are needed because of a drop in enrollment. If we have a drop in enrollment, then we should have a drop in administration as well. And we say that those cuts can be made dollar for dollar from the central office, people and budgets of those programs that are not needed in this crisis. And we also say we hear they need more money, and the state needs to be fully funding education, and both of those things are true at the same time.
And there's a budget surplus of $31 billion.
Right.
It seems like it's an emergency situation for schools. What's the effort? I mean, Tony Thurmond, is he calling for more money from the legislature?
Absolutely. Our affiliate unions and our fellow unions up and down the state, education unions, are clamoring for this money. Our students are in need, and the state in its surplus and in its wisdom has already proposed millions and millions of dollars, and we're looking in January to make sure that more millions of dollars are being funneled into our school, as well as I heard today that the mayor of San Francisco is offering money as well, and that we have some, and we expect that those monies to come to students because that's the right thing to do.
And in Oakland, the Oakland Unified School District is also facing a takeover unless they make cuts. You think what's the connection between Oakland and San Francisco?
This is a targeted attack. When they threaten state takeover on the most densely populated school districts that teach the most number of students of color and the most number of students of need, and they threaten state takeover, this is intentional. It is a coordinated attack to make sure that the system stays broke, not broke.
Well, in the last takeover in Oakland, the flatland schools in the flatlands, black, brown were charters. You think that that's a danger here in San Francisco?
Absolutely. This is this and a lot of the initiatives that have come up recently. We're going to see this happen in San Francisco political climate. The privatizers, the charter schools, all of the money that's swirling around to try and take over the school district, and this overreach in order to reach through and try and control the board. This is meant to be opening the doorway for school privatization. The state has a legislative initiative coming up around school vouchers. We see the forces aligning. This is absolutely a coordinated attack by school privatizers, VCs, and other entities to get rid of and keep public education down.
What does it feel like when you have the richest city in the United States, 71 billionaires, and they're saying they have to cut classrooms and cut
A great point. It feels, as an educator who makes, on average, our average educator here in San Francisco makes around $68,000, $69,000 a year right now. This is no adjustments for inflation. We get no COLA. All of our raises are negotiated, and it feels like shit. It feels awful to be working day in and day out, taking care of our students and our children of SFUSD, educating them, and know that we don't have any help coming, and that people want to take more from us. It's even worse.
What's your name?
My name is John Ray Guevara. I'm program manager for Peer Resources, and I'm here out with the rest of my staff today because it's unjust what the district is doing with these budget cuts. You know, we want to make sure that we provide a quality education for our youth, the students there. Peer Resources currently provides not only services to the students that attend our classes, but also to students who are outside of those, because those students will provide peer-to-peer support to their to everyone else in the school. So we feel like it's unjust to justify budget cuts for our program when we've been serving the district for the past 42 years.
Rosandria, and I'm here to support the Peer Resources program because we are that merge for transformative change in the district, and we want change in the district. We want to stay active in the district, so I'm just here to support all the programs that are possibly being cut.
Scott, directly affects the students is like totally not acceptable. We have way too many bureaucrats who work over there, and this is, cutting things like support for students, like community school programs. I mean, even the governor wants to increase community schools, but we're like, oh, we can cut the funding for things like social workers and community organization. The whole kind of coordination that has to happen, and that's just not acceptable.
Are you a teacher?
No, I'm a parent and a volunteer.
So what about the $31 billion surplus?
Well, yeah, that's a lot of money. That would go a long ways towards doing a lot of things. I mean, I know there's some certain kinds of constitutional requirements or whatever about how it can be spent or it has to be returned, but not all of it has to be returned. At least that's what I first came up to understand. $31 billion would go a long ways towards, improving our schools in terms of providing the funding that are needed, and related supports around that. Schools need nurses and social workers, but they also need, librarians and more materials, and then a lot of places do more than, do a lot of family support. It's not, conventional education component, but it's crucial to, making the kids succeed in school, and that's just something that needs to happen, and $31 billion would help.
My name is Megan. I'm a reading specialist at Cesar Chavez.
And what issues are you concerned about today at the rally?
Oh my goodness. I'm concerned that we're marching to prevent cuts when we should honestly be marching to get more money to schools, not fight for the little money that we're given. Teachers are really burnt out because of the pandemic. Kids are really burnt out because of the pandemic and are coming to us with more needs. And I don't know, I was just thinking our government's willing to bail out banks, but I'm not sure why they're not willing to bail out schools. So I'm tired of asking for scraps. We deserve more than just scraps. We deserve our schools to be treated like palaces, like, institutions that we're really proud of, where every child gets an amazing education, and we have the teacher talent, and we have kids that are highly motivated and families that want the best for their kids. All that's missing is the resources, so that's why I'm here.
And a reading specialist with the pandemic, isn't that even more needed for young kids who've been away from the schools?
Yeah, kids are amazing. Kids are able to do so much online, but of course they're coming to us needing even more support because they did the best that they could, and we did the best that we could in a way that's never been done before in teaching and in learning. So there are far more kids that need my support, and the idea that I wouldn't be at our school next year, it's hard to imagine. So I hope that
this year has been incredibly frustrating, my friends. Incredibly frustrating. From waking up every morning and not knowing if your babies are going to be sick, if there's going to be a mini outbreak, to having your students have all kinds of emotional feelings about this year. We went from looking at each other on Zoom to being in person. And for a lot of our families, a lot of our students, and a lot of us, it brought up a lot of emotions. And nobody gave us a time to kind of recognize that. We weren't asked to pause. We weren't asked to ease on in. We were told to jump into the cold water. And we did it because we love our children. So these are not SFUSD kids. These are the city of San Francisco's children. And they need to pay for them. This is why we're going to raise our voices. Our students and our families deserve more and not less.
Hey everybody. So this has been a really tough school year. We're struggling at our schools. Our students are struggling. The educators are struggling. The parents are struggling. And let's be real, I think a lot of us feel like we were pushed into the cold water this year. It's been scary, right? And so we went back to school because that's what was best for the kids, right? That's what we believe in. That's why we work in the schools. And that's what was the pretext, right? That's why we were told it was time to go back to school because that's what's best for the students. Well, if that's true, if that's what we really believe, then we need to get the resources into the schools that our students deserve. And we don't have those resources already. San Francisco Unified, of the 10 largest counties in the state of California, the least amount of money in per pupil spending happens here. The least amount of money goes to the students of San Francisco of the 10 largest counties in this state. That's not right. What does that look like? That looks like 100 or more vacancies of instructional aides in the district. What does that look like? That looks like some of our classrooms with the students with the most needs have multiple vacancies. There are multiple adults in some of the classrooms with the students with the most needs that are not there. What does that mean? That means our kids are not safe. That means that people are getting hurt in the schools when there should be adults there to take care of them. I myself was hit in the head with a large metal object this year. It's really dangerous when you don't put the resources into the schools that our students and our educators deserve. And they want to take more resources away from the schools. It's not right. But what are we doing now? We're getting together and we're seeing ourselves. Look at all of us. There's a lot of us here. And we know that each one of us represents dozens, if not hundreds more back on our school sites who have our back, right? This is the power that we have. We should look at it. We should feel it because we are powerful. And that's important because we're involved in a power struggle. We're educators. We like to teach people. The people over at 555 Franklin, they don't need education. They already know what the deal is. But they think they can just walk all over us. They think that they don't need to listen to us. So we need to exercise our power. We need to show that we make this city run. It doesn't run without the educators. Parents, that's a big reason why they wanted us to go back to school in the first place, so that the families could go back to work. So we are powerful. We got to feel our power and we got to use it because we got to fight for those resources. We need more resources, not less in our schools, and we're going to fight for it.
So our next group of speakers represents our union siblings. As the saying goes, workers united will never be defeated. It was thanks to our efforts to bargain during the pandemic as a collective that we won some of the best protections in the state. Our first speaker is the president of our bus drivers union. Megan Adams is leading SMART 1741.
Good evening. So, as I said, my name is Megan. I'm both the president of SMART 1741 and our local committee secretary. I'm also a full-time bus driver, so I drive therapy routes for about message out about how these cuts are coming down, and then the fact that it's going to be coming for the teachers, for the paras, for all of the school staff. And we all know how vital every single person that's in this school, from the secretaries to the paras to the teachers to the security to the drivers to the nurses to the social workers and everybody that got read off on that list earlier, about how vital every single one of those people is to the success and education of our students in this city. And it's absolutely ridiculous, as it kind of got pointed out earlier, that this is one of the richest cities in the country. How do we not have the money to fully fund our education system in this city? It's absurd to me, because I was working some of those NPS routes earlier for going out to the School of the Blind, going up north into San Rafael, and talking to the paras there, and they said, we're struggling to get people to fill the para positions. There should not, I've been driving special needs kids for 7 years. I know how absolutely critical it is to have paras in the school, to have paras on the bus, to have the nurses, to support these students in their needs and their development so that they can grow up and be part of the society. So I do absolutely want to echo what Cassie said earlier, talking about how this is a disrespect. That these cuts are a disrespect not just to our students, to all of the workers that are here that are part of our schools and our education system. It's a disrespect to the families who live in this city to be cutting from our education. So I know a bunch of people were really excited. We're really happy to hear that this was happening tonight. We're sorry that we couldn't come out in greater numbers, maybe with knowing that it's going to be coming up again. I can send out more notice again, because we run late. As you know, we're driving students home up until 5 o'clock or later, and we start at 6 in the morning to make sure that all of our students get to school, and we are hustling to make sure that we're doing all that we can. Just to take a quick second, it has been really hard for us this year. I mean, it's not just that everybody's been coming back from a pandemic. We were laid off last year as well. We got our health care cut off, and we're demonstrating out here to try and fight to get that, and we all got cut off. I think about half of us ended up going out of state just in order to get wages and health care to provide for our families during a pandemic, because there was nothing that was coming to us. And then the contract was just given to a new company that has absolutely that had no experience about running buses or dealing with unions. And this has been a challenge that we've been taking to try and educate them for the last almost 12 months now about what needs to be done, how you provide quality transportation for the students in this city, and we're looking forward to continuing to talk with the teachers. Please talk to your bus drivers there. We're happy to talk about what's going on and what our challenges are, and know that we're short just like you guys are short. And that's why if your kids are coming to the school late, it's because we're doing our best that we can, and we're trying to fill our gap. So just to close it out, our students deserve more. Our students
deserve more. Wrapping up our union speakers is the chapter president of SEIU Local 1021, Rafael Picasso. They represent our SFUSD janitors and clerical staff, and all y'all know, no work gets done at our school sites if we don't have janitors and secretaries. Welcome, Rafael.
Good evening, brothers and sisters. Solidarity to the teachers. No cuts to the classroom. No cuts to the classroom. Enough's enough. There's been enough cuts to our classrooms in the 38 years I've worked with this district. That's how long I've been here. I've seen this district cut from the classroom year in, year out, over and over again. Why? When we are top heavy with top paid administrators sitting at $555, $135, they hire consultants to do work that we have employees of the district that can do the work. We have project managers, architects to design work for our schools for renovation projects. But no, they hire overpriced consultants. That's where our money's going. They want to take from the classrooms, take from the teachers, teachers, take from the classified employees, but they don't want to do the right thing. Support our schools, support the classrooms, support the teachers, care for our kids. We need social workers, we need community coordinators that works with our families and the schools. We need to build gateways from our classrooms to the homes of the families. No more cuts. Protect ourselves, protect the teachers, protect the students, protect classified employees. Cut from the top. Cut from the top. All right? We're $150 million in deficit. Since the pandemic started, we were $25 million deficit before the pandemic. How did they get 150 in a year and a half? Because they hired at the top. A chief administrator hires an assistant at $250,000. What was the need for that? What was the need? There are no needs for top-paying administrators. When we know we cut from the top, we can fund our schools better. We can teach our children better. We can give teachers a raise that they deserve. No more. Enough's enough. Cut from the top. Protect our students. Power to the unions. We stand together. Power to the unions. No cuts.
And Ariana Luther exemplifies that. She is an 11th grader at Galileo High School, my friends.
My name is Ariana. I go to Galileo High School. It's been said, but hi. I'm here to talk about the student perspective as well as really what's going to affect me going into senior year. It's terrifying to think about my schools and my teachers and my counselors and everyone being gone, and just because somebody at 555 Franklin wants to keep their job that costs $250. Yeah, it does cost too much. I don't have enough counselors as is. I mean, I'm over by Chinatown and we have one newcomer counselor. I mean, it doesn't make sense. It just is really, I hate to say the word dumb, but it is dumb. Yeah, and then we don't even have a school nurse at our school. And it doesn't make sense. At this point, I don't understand why they're cutting from our schools and not cutting from people who don't need the extra money. I heard that wellness just got 10 new admin and I have 2 therapists for 1,400 students. I mean, just these things that are happening at my school don't make sense. The things that are we don't even have AP tutors, and most of our students are struggling in AP classes, especially since they're English learners. I mean, really just generally the way this thing as a system is set up isn't right, and they're just continuing to perpetuate the way that the system is, and they're just making it worse and worse each year. And what they're doing right now by cutting from the schools is just going to make a bigger deficit, because the students are going to move. They're not going to stay here in a school that doesn't help them, just hinders them. And nobody wants to stay at a school. A teacher, the parents who watch their students struggle, the student themselves, nobody wants to stay at a school that just hurts them and hinders them and doesn't set them up for success for college, for whatever they want to do. They're cutting things that are like JROTC, AVID, things like that are supposed to set you up for success later on. It doesn't matter if you want to go into the military, college, if you want to go straight into the workforce. You should be allowed to learn and have a proper education. We're supposed to be in school and be ready to go out into the world once we're done. It doesn't matter where you go. But yet we're still left here without any sort of proper education because they continue to make cuts, because they continue to dip into our funds rather than try and do something at their admin base. And it just doesn't make sense.
What do austerity budget that was being pushed by fear-mongering and stalling tactics, UESF leadership is amplifying what all of us at school sites have already known for far too long. That school site funding has been shrinking while high-level central office admin has grown significantly and drawing in critical funds that should be made directly available to students in their schools, serving them directly, especially now and especially in a crisis. If anything needs right-sizing, it is the costly bureaucracy that is 3 times the size of Long Beach Unified and larger than Los Angeles Unified, which serves 3 times the amount of students. You heard me right. LA Unified serves 3 times the amount of students, has a smaller central office admin than SFUSD. We want schools and a district that always centers young people, that always prioritizes the experiences that students are having every day in their schools and in their classrooms. Our students deserve the kind of leadership that centers their own learning and their own growth. And we don't have that now. We just don't. Today, we're going to have an amazing lineup of people, from educators to young people and students to families to our union siblings, who will share why it is essential to keep cuts as far away from our schools as possible. It is us who are in the trenches every single day, giving all of what we can, and it is us and our young people that is not being respected by district management. As you settle in, please make sure that you sign in. That was another awkward little transition.